conference will now be recorded.
Okay, I'd like to call the Plan Commission meeting to order for Tuesday, January 3rd. Roll call, please.
Mayor Kodowski.
Here.
Jim Allen.
Present.
Jay Trigger.
Here.
Chris Atkinson.
Here.
Mike Skippington.
Here.
Bert Campbell. Gary Paul.
Here.
Please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag.
And please remember all the men and women throughout the world in uniform. I have no changes to the agenda. I need a motion to approve, please.
Move to approve. Second it.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 5, action on the minutes of the Plan Commission, regular meeting December 6, 2022.
Move to approve as presented. Second.
Motion and a second to approve those minutes as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Number 6, comments from the public must be limited to items not on the agenda, must state your name and address, limited to 5 minutes. The board's role is to listen and not discuss the item. Personnel items cannot be discussed nor individuals named, and the board is not able to take action at this meeting. Is there anybody who would like to comment on anything not on tonight's agenda? Hearing none, let's move on. Number 7, action items. 7A, action regarding requested site plan review for the District Poorhouse, 799 Mike McCarthy Way, VA-66-4-3. Aaron.
All right, thank you. I'll share my screen and bring up the site plan for the District Poorhouse. The requested site plan before you is within the Sports and Entertainment Zoning District, which is why it goes to Planning Commission and Village Board in addition to Site Plan Review Committee. The requested site plan submitted by Bayland Buildings on behalf of proprietor Tyler Smith of the District Poorhouse located at 799 Mike McCarthy Way. Proposed use is for a bar, restaurant, nightclub, or cocktail lounge that is a permitted use within the SE Sports Entertainment Zoning District, subject to the performance standards within the code itself. The building itself is currently a block building. I'll just zoom in here a little bit, get a better sense of the site. Existing block building right here. Proposed additional new concrete patio with ramp as well as a black railing system around the outside with gates for proper egress to and from the building itself. There's a total of 49 off-street parking spaces. Within the SE Sports Entertainment Zoning District, because of the value of the land in those areas, we do not have a minimum standard for parking. But we do require the submittal of a parking plan that addresses both the average parking, whatever that may be, as well as then your peak parking instances. So how are you going to handle those different times of usage? In terms of exterior changes, I mentioned the patio and exterior railing system, and I'll just extend down to the elevations. You can see this right here is the west elevation with the railing system to the north. 2 shades of gray. So the building right now is, we'll say white. It'll be painted lighter shade of gray and darker shade of gray with LED accent lights around the roof line. The south elevation right here will have a new overhead garage door put in place. North elevation that you see right here is the primary entrance on Mike McCarthy Way with the railing system, egress gates, overhead garage doors, some new man doors as well. Additional overhead garage door is planned for, this would be the, get this wrong, the east elevation that you can see here. I did mention the 49 off-street parking spaces. There will need to be a minimum of 2 ADA accessible or designated stalls, one of which has to be van accessible. In terms of recommended conditions of approval, again, this is an existing building. So the recommended conditions include the screening of any new rooftop or ground-mounted mechanical units visible from the property boundaries or public right-of-way. Submittal of a parking plan that identifies management of average and peak parking demands. Submittal of a written plan to manage potential impacts on the surrounding neighborhoods and businesses and meeting the performance standards in village code. That's part of those performance standards that I mentioned earlier with the, that type of use within the sports entertainment zoning district. Designating at least 2 ADA parking spaces, at least one of which is van accessible. And then the catch-all item, meet all applicable requirements of the Ashwaubenon site plan review and all other applicable village ordinances. From engineering, they have just a question to be addressed. Submit a utility plan to show the proposed water service. They need details on what size water service is actually being requested. We'll work that out. No comments from stormwater, as this is an entirely impervious surface site. From public safety, a Knox box is to remain in the building. The current location appears to be ideal based off submitted site plan drawings. Check with public safety to be sure during construction. So again, it's just a confirmation the Knox box is not moved or relocated. Additionally, from public safety, all fire protection systems added or changed are to have accepted tests witnessed by a public safety official, including the required sprinkler system that is noted to be added. The sprinkler system should also have a hydrostatic test witnessed. We had no comments from forestry. From Bike and Ped, the addition of bicycle parking meeting the standards of the Association of Pedestrian and Bicycle Professionals near the primary entrance. One additional condition that I neglected to include on this initial listing here was the condition of a liquor license approval by the village board, which will go into Public Works Protection this evening and then to village board at the end of the month. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, Tyler Smith of the District Poorhouse and David O'Brien from Bayland are also in the audience.
One question I do have, Aaron, because we just had this at site plan. It says that they will provide a parking plan, but
Correct.
when are you going to provide a parking plan?
David, would you mind coming up here and speaking to the microphone?
State your name and address for the record, please.
David O'Brien, 3323 Bay Ridge Court. We will provide the parking plan with the utility plan that's requested. We'll just have our civil engineer do both. So, a month, maybe a month and a half.
Well, how about before the village board meeting?
The parking plan? I can do that.
Well, the only reason why I'm asking is because even if we approve it, and then we don't the parking plan doesn't seem to work, then, we just have to unapprove it. So
Sure.
I'm just thinking that it wouldn't be kind of smart to have the parking plan.
Okay, no problem.
So,
Isn't the parking plan developed around the square footage of the building and the use of the building? I mean, why didn't they bring it now? They know what they're going to do with it.
I don't know why they didn't bring it now, but it is, and it doesn't obviously seem to have a restaurant in the bar, so I don't know what their parking plan is. But in that area, we have minimized the parking requirements
Right.
because of the parking. And if their parking plan has on-street parking, of course, everybody knows that during a Packer game, you cannot utilize on-street parking. So I just think that it would be wise to, I want to see the parking plan before I approve it. That's my thing.
Yeah, the reason I didn't initially have a parking plan was the parking stalls are going to stay as they sit now. We're not going to change them, except for adding the one additional handicap stall.
Correct,
It's
but you
already-
still have to have a plan for, I'm going to say, a big event that's going to happen there. You cannot have any off-street or on-street parking.
Sure.
So you still need to have a plan for where you're going to put those people.
Sure.
Well, with the existing plan that you got right now, you're going to lose all your parking in the front of the building.
I don't even know if I counted that.
Pardon?
I don't even know if I counted those stalls.
I
I mean,
I know there's off-street parking in front of the buildings. Go on. I just had another thought.
yeah, I know there
Doesn't
was
pertain to
parking in the
this.
front, but I didn't think Ashwaubenon would be too kind to have parking like right on the street in theory.
If you would like to, you would have to come up and state your name and address for the record, and
Good evening, I'm Tyler Smith, the proprietor and founder and co-owner. My wife will be co-owner with me in this business. She is 51%, I'll be 49%. Regarding the parking, 11 spots in front, the 49 does not include 11 spots in front. That will be taken up by the patio. So the 49 spots are an addition to that. We also, according to the lease, we'll have a plan. So I understand we got to get a plan for you. But all the other fans, fire, and safety parking spots, after they're closed at 5 o'clock, are ours to utilize as well. So that'll all be included in the parking plan as well,
okay.
if that helps a little bit.
Well,
So does that mean that the tenant next to you to the east is not going to park cars like he is right now to give you those extra spots?
During the Packer games, he will be parking cars there.
So that'll,
Yeah, that was included in the lease, that he would maintain the parking
he will,
of those
yeah,
spots.
so that'd eliminate your parking too then?
I guess it eliminates everybody's parking, I would think. But I agree, limits our parking, and that's an agreement I came to, because most people are going to park there that would park there, that most of them are going to the game or to that event, to the games. It's Packer games only, not other events. Okay, not like Rush Center events or anything like that, Packer games only.
I would
And-
definitely try to get that all down in writing so that we
Yep.
can see it, because I can't approve something that doesn't have the parking plan.
Yep, it's in our lease, and I can provide the lease documentation of that as well. And yes, most of those patrons that, or people that park there, a lot of them would be coming into our location as well. But understand, we'll get the parking plan for you. Before, we can have that in a week. We'll have it in a week.
So, okay.
Can you tell me where we are here? I meant to go by this several times this week, and I didn't do it. What's to the left, what's to the right? What businesses are there? Just so I know where we're talking.
It's a.
I went on that too, and I
Yep,
still can't nail it down.
Vans Fire and Safety owns 3 parcels there, 643 parcels. They own the 3 parcels that are there. This is the one parcel that I'm
Right
leasing.
next to Mark Williams' old building. Well, he owns the building, but.
It used to be
his
the old CarQuest,
Yeah.
way back as
No,
well.
not CarQuest. Yeah, that used
It
to be
used to be,
CarQuest.
yeah.
Yeah, it was
So-
CarQuest, I forgot to mention that this
Yeah.
afternoon. But it was the old Kenworth dealership. All it is a block building.
Correct. And so it's 2 doors down from the distillery. I think it's a glass collision business or something, or can't remember the one that's next to us. And then we
Well,
have
Right
Vans Fire and
next to
Safety.
Gerber Auto Body.
Gerber
Yes.
Auto,
It's right
Williams
next to
Body.
that.
Yes, yes,
Past
yes.
Yeah.
Mark.
And then
Williams
you have the
is
curling,
west
you have the curling club, and then
Yes.
Vans Fire, us, and then
Yes.
the auto, and then distillery. So it's right there.
So they're near the new building that's going up, just west of it.
The Bohemian Parkway? Are you talking the,
No, Mike McCarthy, not.
So,
not-
Mike, if you look up at the
Nothing
screen
new
here,
around there.
uh,
Across the street is a practice field.
Okay,
Correct.
all right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, so right here is the building. Oh, I'm sorry, this one.
yeah, and that lot, that parcel, that goes right around it.
Yep. So right here is the building.
That's the backside of Buffalo Wild Wings? The one
No.
up in the
No,
north?
no.
Still,
No.
So
An empty lot.
here's
behind
Oneida
his
Street.
building.
Here's the gas station, corner of Oneida, Mike McCarthy, the BP station.
okay, all right.
Practice field, continue, and it's right here. So right here's the distillery. The front entrance to the distillery.
And it's the parking lot there, okay.
Yeah, so this is the building right here.
Yep.
So is your plan to serve food and the
Yes.
like?
Yeah, we'll have a 12 by 20 kitchen, no venting, no gas or grease. Our plan is to 3 different things. Number 1, obviously food trucks, as we'll have those during certain events. We have in the kitchen, we'll have commercial air fryer and commercial pizza ovens, so in no greaseless food coming there as well. Also looking at, I've spoken to a couple other businesses, such as T-Bacons, to provide a menu where I can actually send a menu through a barcode to him, and he'd deliver it right there across the lot.
But you don't have any sit-down?
Sit-down
restaurant
restaurant waitresses and that, no.
No. Okay.
Okay.
This is a a unique concept nowhere in Greater Green Bay area. And you probably heard of it up in maybe Gillette at Primal Eats. But there's no bartenders. It's 60 taps of all self-pour. So people will come in, they'll be carted, we'll have wall ambassador. So your bartender's on this side of the wall interacting and with the customers as our wall ambassador with the 60 taps. And they'll be primary featuring all Wisconsin because we want to be destination. So it's Wisconsin craft beers, wines, cocktails, ciders, and coffee. It'll be all on tap.
Yep. That's not on our plan
I
for
was
tonight.
going to say,
Tonight is
that'll be
just,
at the next meeting.
yeah, tonight is
Right.
just
That is,
the,
yeah. So,
Yeah.
but that's the general concept.
yeah.
So,
Okay, any other questions? Otherwise,
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the building plans. I would like to see some colors of gray and gray, which normally comes in on a site plan, the color renderings of a building. I'll make recommendations to approve this building upon approval with the liquor license.
and staff condition?
Staff conditions, of course.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve with staff conditions and the approval of the liquor license, and Gary wants to see the colors of the gray and the gray. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
The only comment I want to make, it looks like it's a brick building. It's a block building.
it is a block building.
It looked like you're rendering, it's an 8
Right.
by 16 block building.
Yes. Yes. When I
8 by
looked
8 by
at that building too, I thought, oh, they're going to put brick on the outside,
Yeah, I
but
did
we
too,
found
but
out
it's
they.
not.
It's just a block building, and we'll be painting the outside of it.
Okay, any other comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
7B, action regarding the revised preliminary plat of 3 Putt Meadows, parcel VA-L202-2. Aaron?
All right. The requested preliminary plat approval did come before Plan Commission probably about a year ago now, I think it was, for the plat of 3 Putt Meadows. Steve's here? Good. Steve Beto with Mountain Associates is here representing the property owner and the developer, John Haus. They had worked through some items with the Brown County Highway Commission, Public Works, as far as driveway access to Grant Street. The proposed revision that you see before you limits the number of direct access driveways to Grant Street to a number that is acceptable to the Brown County Highway Commissioner. In terms of other features of the plat, we do include Outlot 1 right here, which frames this navigable waterway that flows to the north. Within Outlot 1 would include 2 stormwater ponds to handle stormwater management on the site. This Outlot 1 would be dedicated to the village for stormwater management purposes. You may notice the rather, we'll say, odd shape of the right-of-way of the cul-de-sac for this east-west street right here. We have had discussions with Public Works. They do some concerns about some of the snow storage as the driveways enter because of the unique shape of the cul-de-sac and the pavement width. And I guess maybe Brian, if you want to touch on that a little bit.
All right. Yeah, so absolutely. As I started looking at it and kind of started sketching in some of the driveway locations, a good portion of driveways as you start to turn and head south, the aprons of the driveways will actually be intersecting each other or touching each other in various locations, which will make it challenging, especially since there is a little bit of a narrower pavement width. We don't have the details of exactly what the pavement's going to look like, but we do have a very preliminary concept of what it could look like. But that's definitely something that we want to stay conscientious of as we move forward to ensure that we're able to remove the snow with a narrower pavement width, and then also have a location for the snow to go instead of just packing it in the ends of people's driveways, leaving people being very discouraged and disgruntled with our snow removal operations. So Coming into that cul-de-sac, kind of as you bend and go south, a lot of those driveways are going to be very close, and especially when you get to the very tail end of the cul-de-sac bulb. We do have other areas like this in the village, and they've definitely proven to be challenges, or a challenge for not only us, but for the residents that live in those areas.
One of my questions that I have, is there going to be any restrictions on parking on the roads? Because I know that in some of them that have those narrower streets, we restrict parking on one side.
Based on the tighter pavement width, it's very likely that parking will only be able to be on one side of the roadway. If you were to allow parking on both sides, it'd be challenging to get fire apparatus through or any sort of large commercial vehicle.
All right, just wanted, thanks, Brian, appreciate that. Going back to the plat as a whole, there's a total of 56 residential lots. These are going to be primarily owner-occupied, zero lot line homes. So they look like duplexes on the outside, but there will be a common wall that extends throughout both units, separating them into owner-occupied, zero lot line, similar to Alden Station, that type of use. That is a permissible use within the R2 zoning district, which this property was rezoned back in 2022. I mentioned the revised driveway access per Brown County Highway. And one item that came up in initial discussion of the plat in the neighborhood meeting was a concern regarding the stream itself and its tendency to fill up with vegetation, and the impression it creates some backing up of water to the south. So one of the recommended conditions of approval is that this drainage way essentially be cleaned with proper DNR permits to remove excess vegetation, allow for the more, I guess, the better flow of water to the north in that area. In terms of recommended staff conditions of approval, I'll read through these, so bear with me. Preparation and adoption of a formal development agreement between the Village of Ashwaubenon and developer for approval by the Ashwaubenon Village Board. Specific details to include utility, sanitary, storm pond design, and access from Grant Street, water main, roadway, including curb and gutter, sidewalk, roadway, street lighting, initial and final asphalt, street trees, and then design, construction, warranty, and pavement. Process for deeding Outlot 1 to the village for stormwater management purposes. Inclusion of a 12-foot wide maintenance drive lane around the stormwater ponds in Outlot 1. Number 2, receipt of proper DNR and village permits and approvals and cleaning of the tributary to ensure proper water flow prior to deeding of Outlot 1 to the village. Number 3, labeling of the temporary cul-de-sac at the end of the north-south street on the east end of the development. Number 4, identification of street names unique to Brown County. Number 5, coordination with the U.S. Post Office, this will be the De Pere office, regarding identification of locations for cluster mailbox units to serve the subdivision. Number 6, include the following note: approved floodplain permits from the Ashwaubenon Zoning Administrator's Office is required prior to construction, fill, excavation, or grading activity within the revised flood fringe floodway areas. I should touch on that. The map on the Brown County GIS right now does indicate this area being a large area of floodway and flood fringe. That was revised through a letter of map revision on fill. That was approved last year by FEMA. So that is in the record. Regardless, any work in the floodplain, flood fringe does require floodplain permits. Include the following note: approved shoreland permits from the Ashwaubenon Zoning Administrator's Office are required prior to construction, fill, excavation, or grading activity within 300 feet of the ordinary high water mark of navigable rivers or streams, or to the landward side of the floodplain, whichever is greater. Payment of the park fee of $49,300 as a condition of final plat approval, and then approval by the Brown County Planning Commission and Wisconsin Department of Administration. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, as I mentioned, Steve Vita of Mound Associates is also in the audience.
Is this, I just wanted to ask, is this going to be a homeowners association?
I guess I'll defer that over to Steve.
Could you state your name and address for the record, please, Steve?
Good evening, Steve Beta with Mount Associates, 400 Security Boulevard. I'm not aware of that there's going to be a homeowners association with this. There will be individual associations between the two units, of course, because they have mutual walls, mutual roofs, and those kinds of things. But I don't believe there's going to be an association for the whole thing.
Okay. Okay, go ahead, Gary.
Aaron, these condition of approval, that's standard for a new plot, isn't it?
I mean, some are unique to this
Right.
plat just because of its, some of the environmental issues we're dealing with there. But overall, nothing out of the ordinary.
Okay. I think it's a great addition to the village. I'm glad we got our road driveway situation taken care of. I do have some concern what Brian was saying about a snowplow removal. That is tight on that south elevation there. In my district, I got a couple of those cul-de-sacs, and I know people are complaining about it, but they're living with it. This is much tighter, I think. So somebody's going to have to live with it, I guess, so. If there's no other questions, I'll move to approve this plot map addition with the conditions of recommendation.
I can second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the revised preliminary plat of 3 Putt Meadows, parcel VA-L202-2. Any more discussion?
Help my memory, Aaron. How many driveways did we have before coming out on Grant Street and what it's changed to?
I believe there was 5 or 6, 5, I believe, and they wanted us to be less than 3. 3 was fine. We're actually
Okay.
at 2.
I mean, it definitely looks improved, so
Yeah.
How many driveways are there?
Well,
2?
there's two
there's two
units
units.
No,
coming
but
out,
I-
but it'll be 2 total driveways.
Boy, I thought there was more than 5, but there was a number of them.
There was a lot of them. I know we questioned it the last
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
There were so
Yeah, there
many
was
of
like
them.
5 last time.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There were 7.
Well, this created a bigger project than what they originally proposed, isn't it? It gives them more lots than what was originally proposed, wasn't it?
I think it's actually a couple fewer,
Fewer?
It's
Oh,
less.
Okay,
yeah.
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
Okay. Any other discussion?
So Brian, you're comfortable that there's going to be places for the snow to go? Because that would be one of my concerns with all them driveways bumped right next to each other and everything. Your guys are going to put the snow there, but do the owners have a place to go with the snow?
Right. The one thing that I would say is we don't have a formal engineered plan. We were given a very preliminary plan. Based on that preliminary plan, I then sketched in what the driveways would look like. There's definitely concerns, and I think it's something that we may have to look at, change, kind of the pavement layout to try to, lessen some of those burden. But there definitely is going to be challenges. I think that, it's possible with the potential pavement width that a portion, of it may need to be plowed with just a pickup truck just because of its agility compared to a commercial truck.
Tight to this side. All there.
Oh,
All right. I mean, it's
Yeah,
the
that's-
development. They're going to have to
that's-
put up with it, but it's a
Yeah.
concern.
It's a huge concern. Because the people, when they get all that snow in their driveway, they're not going to call John Huss or
I have an answer for it.
Mao.
There's a lot of room in that cul-de-sac, actually, because that's almost a double cul-de-sac. There's a ton of room in there. So I'll work with your engineer, and I got a couple ideas on what we can do within the right-of-way to store tons of snow, so. We'll work it out.
Your main concern, Brian, is on the north-south running street? It'd be 8 driveways.
Yeah, that's where the biggest challenge is. Once you start, getting to that, start making the bend to go north-south. When you start that bend to head south, it's tight in there on that outer, we'll say northwestern edge. And then also when you get to the very bottom of the cul-de-sac bulb, it's also tight in there. Once you start sketching in the driveways, the driveways actually almost start touching each other at the apron. And, that it's kind of between the aprons is where the snow gets crammed, in cul-de-sacs, because that's the only place you can go with it. So,
You said you feel like you've got some ideas on there?
Yeah, I got some ideas on it, but we'll talk through it
Could
and
we,
make sure. it
could we just
works.
add that as a condition, that you speak with Steve to
think you have it.
figure out what that would look like?
Yeah, that'd be part of condition number 1 about utilities, street layout, everything else.
All right, good enough.
yeah, and even with that, I mean, we're gonna have to start, we'll have to look at hydrant locations too, because that's obviously a location where hydrants normally are between driveways, so, and generally there is a hydrant at the end of every cul-de-sac. So it's all stuff that when we get further into the engineering of it, we're gonna have to figure out the details of that to make sure everybody's comfortable.
Well, Brian, you don't have a small truck following a big truck around anyway to take care of these. You're adding more time to your staff to do that if you're going to have to come in there with a smaller truck to
Right.
put the snow where you can, it's that simple.
Correct, yeah.
And
our
then you're
current
going to get
operation-
calls and saying, how come my driveway ain't plowed out or it's plowed in or whatever, so.
Right, right.
All right, let's hope they can come up with some answers on that.
Right.
Okay, so that will be taken in the staff conditions, right?
Correct.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second to approve, but with staff conditions, we got to figure out that snow. Because like I said, you won't get those calls.
No.
I will. Brian will.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they won't, people will not be happy, and I don't blame them, so. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion carried. Okay. So now, items for next agenda. There will be a plan commission meeting, right, Aaron?
Yes, there will.
Okay. Now I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second?
Motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. We are